Hello everyone and welcome to the KMTRADERS channel. So this is the full market analysis volume 23. Again, we're going to be looking at all of the pairs that we typically watch. I'm going to give you some predictions and give you some of our directional biases in the markets for next week. So without further ado, we're going to start off with gold. So we looked at last week a potential sell-off to the downside. And the other scenario that we were looking at is a push to the upside. So obviously we can see that sell off now. So I was looking at a potential retest of this zone here. I think we're still, we still have the potential to reach this here. So stay aware of around this level. So this is roughly at 1980. So we could have, a retracement in the early off week. Into this area. I'll be looking for signs of weakness within this level, but my long-term bias is towards the downside. Now I'm targeting roughly this zone area here. So this is at 1862, just a little range here. Now I'm looking at this uptrend as well, and the reason why I'm thinking this is, potentially we could have a false breakout, and now typically when this happens we can get a good influx of liquidity into this area, because retail traders would think instantly we're in a sell-off condition, so people would be selling and keen to do this. Well, in actual fact, this could be a sign of a potential buying opportunity, and again, which we talked about last week, a good push to the upside. So we're starting to see this potential setup come into play. Now I'm looking at this as we still need more patience and more time for this setup to remain valid. So we just need to see how price reacts, and if it does manage to come to this trend line, then we can go forward from there. So again, this is the scenario that I'm looking to play out, and if there are any updates, we will provide a bit of an update video for you in a singular video. So that's all I have to say for gold. Moving now on to the next pair, so New Zealand dollar to the US dollar. So my bias is now towards the downside. We can clearly see, structure is clearly pushing lower. Now we could expect retracement. I'm not saying it's going to reach this zone. I think we have all this space area here to potentially find some new resistance levels here. So again, pay attention for signs of weakness. So potential weakness to the upside within this range. And then I'll be looking to, look for shorts into this level, so 0.63800. I posted a quick analysis on this in the group, in the analysis group. So if you haven't joined that already, that link is in the description below. But also posted a bit of an insight on this on the Instagram as well. Basically, my thought processes around this is looking at this support level here, multiple wick rejections, a good valid support level. So I'm ultimately targeting this level here. So if you were to take an aggressive sell, it's around 150 pips. So for this bias to remain valid, I'm looking, for price to not extend above this zone here. If we do, we could be looking at another potential move to the upside. So I'm using this zone here as a potential bias for me. If we do go above here, I'll be looking to buy. But for now, I'm hoping that we stay down and we see progression to the downside. So that's all I'm looking at for that pair. Moving on to AUDUSD. I think we still have a possible push to the upside still. Now I'm thinking that we could have one more push, but I'm also staying aware of this zone here, because if we do go lower than this, we could get that retest here and then we push lower. But for me, I think we do have a possibility of pushing higher from this zone here. So this is roughly at 0.72 700. So if we get a push above here, potential retest, and again the continuation to the upside, that's kind of where I'm looking at. I'm seeing this. The reason for this, we're looking at, we were looking at a strong impulse upside, but can you see how we're gradually moving sideways now? I hope you can see this. Price is obviously less steeper here in this range here as opposed to this part of the market. So we're coming to a possibility of a reversal. If we do now look at the RSI, there's no potential clear signs just yet. We could, this is the other reason here, we have one peak here which is clearly diverging. So if we get one more push to the upside, that would give us a good possibility that we could then look for a downside move if we get to if we make a progression to the upside and shoot all the way back down. But of course we'll need to update this. This isn't going to happen anytime soon. Maybe in the next few weeks or September, going October time. So there's a lot of opportunity for these pairs, especially the US dollar pairs coming up. So keep an eye on all of US dollar pairs. That's what I'm doing. So Euro USD, again, same situation. No, I don't have a clear bias just as yet. I think it's purely because the US dollar pairs are more or less doing the same thing right now, which I've noticed clearly. So again, a steep price action move up to the upside, and then diagonal moves, a sideways movement of the pairs. So we can't really see anything formulating. So we have to stay patient, wait for that break to the upside, and again the push. Or equally, we could get this move to the downside and wait for this to happen. So in terms of where I'm looking, if I was to guess, it would be, I'll be favoring towards the upside. But if we do break this lower level, then I would be considering, selling the market. We do have a nice channel here actually. Let me just draw this in for you guys. So around here. So more good respect of the channel touches here. So could watch this as a good trading opportunity for next week. So I will be keeping my eyes peeled for this. Moving on to USDJPY. So looking at this pair, we mentioned last week that we could see a sell-off, and we did. Now we're looking at a potential retracement, and I'm using this level here, so roughly at 107, as the barrier for sell. So if we go above this level, look for a retest and a push higher, but I think we still have a possibility of finding resistance before we head lower. Now for me, I'm looking at price to come into this level here, so test and potentially push into 104. That's where I'm thinking price could head. Again, I'm seeing a lot of US dollar weakness, so one more push to the downside I think is due, and then we could start to switch our bias a bit more, and obviously we need to update this pair a bit more intensely. But again, yeah, stay focused on the US dollar pairs. August is pretty much a choppy sideways movement. It's always typically a slow time of the year, and this is where these orders for the long run do occur. So again, know you're understanding the seasons as well in the year, not just on the daily. And seasons do have an effect on forex pairs. For example, I know typically August periods and December periods going into January are typically the slowest times. The reason for this is obviously banks, they do take their toll on the market. So for example, if they're taking their holidays, you can see a bit of a side effect in this in the market. So reduced movements, and it's hard to find a lot of liquidity in the market, especially if the banks are not involved. So remember, hedge funds do take breaks as well, and they're typically the period. So you can literally take August and December off. That's ideally what I do. But again, this is just an update. That's why the videos have been slow, just for anyone that's curious. But we're starting to see more opportunities. Typically more middle September going into October. That's when I feel like price starts to get active again. So just keep out for those months, etc. If you want to take a break, then this is the perfect time of the year to do it. So definitely take your breaks, recuperate, recover, remotivate yourself and get back into the game. That's how I look at it. Okay, so a bit of a side rant and a side track. So Pretty much, yeah, looking at a side move to the downside, targeting 104 potentially for USDJPY. So moving on to CADJPY, I'm looking at price to descend to the downside. We're looking at a nice confusion here in the market. So I'm going to try and get into this pair and see if we can push lower. And again, look for a potential retest. And see if we can scope any further down. So I'm looking, potentially looking to this level of the market, so 77.6, and see if we can scope any into those ranges. For this trading idea to remain valid, we can't go above 81.0. So if this does happen, we're going to get a potential further push and another potential retest there. So that's the opposing bias here if we do look for a buy, and this is obviously our sell condition here. So still looking for sells within this range and see if we can punch into 77.6. So moving now to New Zealand dollar to the Japanese yen. Again, same situation. I've got pretty much a mixed bias here. I've got the upside move and a downside move. So what I'm looking at is this zone here to remain a potential bias to the downside if we get a retest and a push lower. That's if we're looking to sell. However, I'm thinking we could get a push during the week here to the upside. Break this zone and push higher. So just keep this in mind, these two levels here. So this is roughly at 68.8 and this is at 70.0. Okay, so that's my bias with this pair. Moving on to the last few pairs now, EURJPY. So I've been looking at this pair for a long time. I've been saying, are we going to short now? Are we going to look for a sell bias? Because we are in due for a correction, straight up pressure to the upside. We can slowly start to see price coming to the downside now, break of our uptrend. So we could be looking at potential retest of this zone here, and I'll be looking to see how far we can move into. Ideally, I want to look at 119. I think this is a bit optimistic. I think what we need to do is just stay aware of weaknesses to the downside, because my long-term projection is towards the upside. So the main trend for me is to the upside. Again, this would be a counter move trade, so just stay aware of this. So again, waiting for levels in the market to find pressure to the downside. And again, the other scenario is, if we do find a buy, I would only be looking at above, if price does move above 126.500, wait for that retest and push higher. But of course, we will give you a bit of an update video if we do switch our bias. That goes with all pairs as well in this video. Finally, we are looking at, no, not finally, sorry, we are looking at the last three pairs. So AUDJPY. So bias for me is towards the downside. I want to be looking to see if we can get into this range. We could be looking at potential a retest, a bit of a retracement potentially before we get pushed lower. We need to find levels in the market that are resisting, find the weakness and push into this zone, so 74.800. That's where I'm optimistically thinking. And then we could be looking at a push towards the upside, but for now I don't want to confuse you too much. For now I just want to keep this bias make sense here. So for me, if we do look for a potential buying opportunity, it would be if we break this zone here, push to the upside, the retest, and a further move higher. So that's all I'm looking at for that. Looking at the last two pairs now, USD Swiss franc. I have a bias towards the upside. So I'm looking at this level in the market to clear. If we can get that push to the upside with the possibility of a retest, we could be looking at further highs. We've got a lot of trends, downtrends to be broken. The other scenario is if we fail to do, if this option does fail, we will give you an update of this, of course, but we'd look for a possible break to the downside, the retest, and again further movement low, because you know we're looking at some more lows, which is possible, but I'm looking at this influx of buying momentum here, and you know we do have some nice divergence as well. So you know, keep this in mind. We could have that possibility of momentum switching to the upside. So that's that bias. Now coming to the last pair for this video, USD CAD. Mixed bias with this. I do think we do have a possibility of pushing higher, but I don't want to be too aggressive. So this is why I'm going to take a bit of a step back, sorry, wait for that retest of this level. So that's roughly at 1.32500 and push higher. Now if we can break this downtrend, then this will be a major shift and a major trend reversal on the higher time frames. Now the other thing, which is why I'm a bit confused, not so confused, but you know, staying aware of, is this sell-off pressure that we got towards the end of the week. I was kind of optimistic during the middle of the week when we saw this, you know, quite a large buying pressure, let's be honest, but it kind of got counteracted quite quickly, so that's why I stayed a bit uncertain around this pair. So this is why it could lead me to another possibility of selling. Now the best selling scenario I could think of is, you know, to look for closure to the downside with that retest and the push lower. So they're mainly the options that I want to look at. But for my long run, you know, I want to see this downtrend break. You know, I've been waiting for this for a long time. So let's see exactly how long price can continue to sell before we get that push to the upside, and that's what I'll be looking at for this week for all of those pairs. So that's all I'm looking at so far for this week. Like I did mention at the start, we do have a trading group that you can join. That link is in the description below. Feel free to join that. You know, we give you a lot of education around that and give you a bit of perspective of what I'm thinking. We do also have a premium group that you can join. This gives you the access of how we trade, and a bit more detailed analysis per post that we look into. So definitely do hope this video did bring you value. If it did, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and give this video a like as well. If you do have a question for us, feel free to message us on our Instagram or our Telegram, which is at KMTRADERS, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So if you made it all the way to the end of the video, guys, thank you very much for listening. I'll see you guys all in the next one.